Okay. So good evening, everyone. Thank you again for joining us to Talk to Connect. My name is Fatma. I'm the host of Talk to Connect, and the purpose of this podcast is always to empower, to inspire, to learn, to allow you to find your own your own way. And today I'm having such powerful panel with me, and the topic we're having today is about domestic abuse. And I think we are always talking about how to empower women. How do we empower women? How do women understand how to get over abuse and all these things? But I think to have a balance, we need also to empower men. And today we have a panel of powerful men who are going to help us to understand how can we empower men? How can we empower men to understand, to break the chain of abuse? And I know there's some men who are being abused also. And as men, I feel like most of them are locked in, not like women. We know how to share our emotions. We can talk to other people and talk about abuse in different level. But I think with men is different. And I would like to have this conversation so that if you're an abuser, and I think a lot of men don't even understand they're abusers, they just see like it's a pattern that they're having. How can we break this pattern, especially to the young generations? And I think that most of the panel I have here are fathers. So it's how do we help even the coming generation to break this pattern? Why I chose this topic today is because I'm coming from Kenya, and my country is when people are having a pandemic of corona, we're having a pandemic of abuse, and there's so many scary cases that has happened recently. So I think it's a topic that just empowers everybody, but I'm also dedicating to any woman and any man who is suffering from this pandemic in my country. So I want to welcome all of you, and I want to thank you for taking your time today. So I'll let each of you introduce themselves, and let people know who you are first of all before we start the conversation. So Aliyu, I'll start.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you, Kate Davis and Stephen Williams, Stefan Ward. Thank you very much, Fatima, for inviting and then making this happen. My name is Aliuba. I live in Estonia at the moment. It's in Eastern Europe. And I'm a mindset coach and a speaker as well. And this is a very important topic, which we came here to share with you, for whosoever is listening today. And it's very, very important. As Fatima said, most of the time, abuses happen in domestic, but men tend to just keep it to themselves because, we just build, we just keep things and then be strong. And then sometimes it's not the best way. At the end of the day, when you started, talking to someone and share this experience, and then they will also learn from that and see how they can also overcome what they're going through. But a lot of men don't share these things, but women are tend to be very good in sharing these things with their friends and other people and seek for help. But men, we just build to be like, oh, you just have to be strong. Men don't cry. But this is really affecting a lot of men around the world. So we're here today to see how best we can overcome this. And we have great, men here who can share their experience in this and then see how best we can, live in a better world, live in a world of whereby we will all be in a better conditions, better environments, and better families. And we can build a better future for our, kids and then the next generation coming up. So this was my introduction today, and then I'll let someone take over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aliyu. So let's have Kate.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. Thank you, Fatma, for having us. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on this panel. This is definitely a very important topic that we're discussing. My name is Keith Davis from Connecticut. I'm an author, a mentor, a community leader, a business owner. And my goal in life is to help as many people as humanly possible through all avenues, through networking, through everything that I do. So it's a pleasure to be here. Look forward to the conversations that we're having. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen?
Oh, me, Stephen. Hey, Stephen Stephen.
Yeah.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone, wherever you are. Fatima, thank you so much. Aliu, thank you so much for inviting me to this platform. It's definitely a great conversation. Everyone, my name is Stephen Ward. I'm by way, New Jersey, and I am a father, a husband. I am also a mindset coach, a speaker, and also a law enforcement officer who's been in the business, private security law enforcement for over 22 years. So I've dealt professionally with individuals who may have been dealing with, domestic violence, and it's a pleasure for me to be here. And I'm happy to be here and thankful that we're having this conversation.
Thank you. Stephen?
Yeah, how you doing, everyone? I'm Stephen Williams. So look, I'm here. Grateful to be here. Thank you, Fatima, for inviting me here. Motivational speaker, author, entrepreneur. I don't even want to run down the list, but grateful to be here and see what I can learn from this conversation today and have a good time.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with, because I'm going to be co-hosting with Aliu. So I'm going to start with the first question. And my question is, as men, and I've experienced like with a lot of men who are abusers, that they are being taken, or maybe when you're an abuser, go to court, you're going to be taken to jail. And these are the things that we do so that we can stop abuses. But my question is, do they really get help? Because I feel even if we lock them inside and even if we take them to jail for what they're doing, what are the things that we need to know to help men so that they can understand? I think there's this feeling, for me, I feel some men are abusers, then they don't even understand that they have a problem of being abusers. So how do we help men to understand that, this is a problem? At first they have woman, and I've went through abuse, I broke the family, and it's a chain that I'm having. So how do we help men to find a way where they can relate to this problem and they can be able to go and look for help, or they can be supported? Anyone can go.
Oh, yeah. What's your question? I thought it was Fali. What's your question again? I'm sorry. Just how can we?
My question is, because there's a lot of men who are abusers, and they actually do it pattern, like a lot of they have a lot of families and they keep on doing it. The fact is I feel they don't even understand that this is a problem that they have. But what we do as society, when you're an abuser, we will call the police, you'll go to jail, or you'll be punished. But how do we help men to understand that this is a problem that they have, and how can we empower them to actually find a way or an outlet to feel like they can go for help, they can ask for help, instead of them just keep on holding into this behavior as this is the way I'm built, or this is the way a man should be?
Well, I'll start it off. I think sometimes depending on the culture, or depending on where you are in the world, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes it might be a thing where you might grow up and it might be a part of your culture. But I think after a certain point in your life, you know what's right. You know what's the difference between what's right and what's wrong. If someone is an abuser, especially if it's a man, I feel like maybe it's probably a power thing. It's definitely something that happened within their childhood that they probably experienced in their childhood that they never really got corrected or healed, or they never sought to work it out, and eventually it just passed on from there. So again, like I said, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, but when you do know, it's up to you to go ahead and try to get it, fixed, to try to go ahead and work on it so that you could become a better person. Another thing is that you have to be willing to want to change. You have to want to change. We can talk about domestic violence and we can let individuals know, or they can actually see the results on their victims, but you have to want to change. You have to want to change. If you're in a part of society, or if you're in a part of a culture where that's accepted, it's real difficult. Because I know here in the United States, dealing from a law enforcement point of view, if there's like a domestic violence situation, there's repercussions behind it. There's very, very little you can do to put your hands on a man or woman, and we can call the cops, we can call law enforcement. And once law enforcement is called, it's pretty much out of your hands. It's not pretty much a I'm sorry type situation. The law takes into its hands what the law takes into its hands at that point, because it's a domestic violence situation, to protect the victim. But if you're in a society, if you're in a culture where there's no repercussions behind that, then you have to want to change from inside. You have to look at yourself and become disgusted with being an abuser and say, I don't want that no more for myself. You have to want to change your outcome.
Thank you. That's really powerful.
That was extremely powerful. I can go next. Communication is where I'm going to come from, and leading by example. I'm very big on leading by example. I believe, they say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, right? And I'm not sitting here calling the man a dog. I'm just using that analogy. But when we think about it, how do you go teach someone who's been abusing, like, right, their whole life, right? And that's going to be tough to tackle. So you have to kind of lead by example. Like, how are you showing up and communicating to the youth, right? And showing the youth and leading the way. I think by leading by example, we can truly crack a lot of things that go on and make an impact, because they'll say, well, hey, Stephen's not doing that. Keith's not doing that. Aliu's not doing that. Like, why am I doing that? And on top of that, there's a flip side. We'll be able to lead and show these men, even if they don't acknowledge it, even if the youth doesn't acknowledge it, right? The leading by example. What will happen is the women will start to see, I don't have to take that. And I believe that communication, that leading by example, having conversations like this, it just opens us up to just much better opportunities and relationships. That's just my little point of view.
Okay, thank you. That's powerful.
Great. Great points, gentlemen. I think taking a look at the root of the problem is huge, right? So what is it that's triggering me? What is it that's getting me to the point where I'm putting my hands on someone else, right? On someone that I say I love, or my significant other, right? What is that thing that's getting me so mad, right? And I think it's about accountability, right? And getting out of your feelings, right? Being able to express your feelings in a way that's not harmful to the next person. I created a book called 28 Days to a New Outlook, Facts Over Feelings, right? And when you make decisions based off feelings, the outcome can be horrendous. When we look at the facts of the situations or whatever you're dealing with, you can make a logical decision and really actually change your way of thinking and have better outcomes. So I think accountability is major. Really wanting to change, like looking at what you're doing, looking at who you're hurting, looking at what you've done. Say, I don't want this for myself no more. I don't want this for the people that I've hurt, or the people that my kids that come after me. I don't want to be this person anymore. So I think accountability, really wanting to change, like Stephen said, and wanting to do better. So it's all within who you want to be, and not who you don't want to be, right? Even if you don't know what you do want, you know that you don't want to be that person no more. So you got to start there. I don't want to put my hands on this person no more. I don't want to be reactive anymore. I don't want to cause harm anymore. So when you really take a look at yourself and look in the mirror, realize what you don't want to do, and then you can work on what you do want to do, the things that you want to change. So I think it's just starting by taking accountability.
Thank you.
Amazing. Those are great answers, to that question from Fatima. And also what I can add to that is it's very, very important for us to look back, sometimes at ourselves, because this is all taking responsibility. Because if you live on an abusive environment, even yourself, you wouldn't like it if someone is abusing you. But they start from our young age, our programming, what we were surrounded with when we were young. You have to find out from there. And then now you understand that why you're doing the things you're doing, and you're still getting the result that you don't want. According to I studied a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. We make mistakes, but we are not our mistakes. So we tend to associate more with our mistakes and saying that, oh, this is me, this is how I am, I can change. I'm an abuser, I'll continue to be an abuser. But sometimes you don't even identify that you are doing something wrong, because you're so buried in these kind of behavioral patterns that is continue in your life and it's affecting you, but you already know you're even going to jail for it, and you even having a bitter relationship with your partner, either as a man or a woman. But when you started sitting down, trying to identify yourself and take this responsibility, understanding that what you're doing is not right, it's not the way forward, it's not the way of life, then you will understand and then differentiate yourself. Okay, I am perfect the way I am as human being, but many times people make this mistake. Oh, you're not perfect. Da, da, da. No, we are perfect as human beings, and then you cannot say that, you know, you're like human beings are not perfect, or the mountains are not perfect, or the trees are not perfect. We are perfect the way we are, but what we do, that is not perfect. So when we understand what we do that is not perfect, we're trying to make a change on what we're doing. And then the most exercise that I normally do is like, when I'm in a situation, I write down exactly how it's happening, the negative way. I sit down and pour it out all in a paper and look at it, and then also look at it in a positive way, and then write it down in a positive way. Then what I do is just to spread that paper and then let it go. Symbolically, I'm letting it go. Whatever I'm going through, whatever I'm doing in my life, whether I'm an abuser, I don't treat my wife right, or I'm not treating my, husband right, I let that go. And then now I face this that I wrote that in a positive way, and then start reading that constantly every single day, stick it somewhere whereby I can look at it and see it every single day. That's also another psychological way you can help yourself to overcome whatever habitual behavior you are on. And that's what I wanted to share. Thank you very much, Fatima.
Thank you so much. So
Can
we'll go for the
can
next.
I add a little 2 cents?
Okay.
Go ahead.
So look, I think it's very important that, we can sit here and we sound great, right? And we've got these ideas. We're sitting in our nice, elegant backgrounds and it's calm and quiet and serene. But I think it's extremely important to understand that that's not everyone's walk of life. That's not every environment where a lot of abuse occurs. And even in our serene environments, like us, as an individual, the abuse that I may project on someone because maybe I'm just not aware, or because of what I've been, gotten away with for years, maybe. So there's different things that we have to be mindful of. It's just, I just like to be open and real. Like, every situation is different, and everyone has like a different walk of life. I recall growing up and witnessing an abuse, and it wasn't that I didn't know it was right or wrong. I knew it was wrong. I was a kid. It wasn't to me, but I would see it. But who would step up and actually say something? That individual, they knew what they were doing. People know what they're doing when they're abusing, if they're intentional about it. But it's like, I think it goes back to what Stephen Ward said. It could be a power thing. It could be a insecurity within oneself when they're just wanting to overpower and overbear because they know they can get away with something. So yeah, this is a great conversation. Nice question.
I just want to add on to that. This is getting good. I also think that, to be abusive is a learned behavior. That's a learned behavior, because no one wakes up and is born or come out of the cooch saying, I want to be abusive. It's something that's a learned behavior. And I think that, we can read books and we can read all the literature that we want, but it's not as simple as just listing things down to try to say it, because it's almost like being an addict. If I'm an addict, if I'm hooked on drugs, or I'm hooked on alcohol, or I'm hooked on any of those vices, it's not as simple as me trying to itemize these things and trying to get rid of them, because it's a learned behavior. When it's a learned behavior, now you're starting to deal with dopamine effects and chemical imbalances and all of these type of different things. So I think it's a little bit stronger. I think it's a little bit stronger than that, because it's a learned behavior. So that's why I'm gonna double down and be 10 toes down with. I think that it's definitely something you got to change from within. You have to change from within, because if you ask me, even if a culture is okay with that, the civilization, It's an accumulation of individuals, and the individual has to change in order for the system to change. The system is not just going to change. The individuals have to change in order to, so you have to go inside and you have to revert that, and you have to work on that piece by piece in order to change that.
Absolutely. Now, very good points, gentlemen. Very good points. Now, I live by a mantra that says, I tell kids in juvenile detention, anywhere I speak, I tell them, listen, the most important conversation you will ever have with yourself. About who? You. So what are you telling yourself in these circumstances, in these situations, right? No matter what circumstances you come from, no matter what you've seen, what are you telling yourself? That this is okay? When you know it's not, right? What are you telling yourself? So you can blame your circumstances if you want in these situations, but circumstances are derived from two words, right? Circle and standing. You're standing in a circle. So you're making a conscious decision to stand in that circle of abuse, poverty, anger, neglect. This one did this one to you, so you're going to do that to the next person. Whatever it is, that's a decision that you got to make. So you got to change your decision making. Just change the way that you think about yourself and just get right. You know?
Change the narrative.
Absolutely.
Powerful. Thank you so much. I really want to agree with the part of the making decision that you have a choice. And as I'm thinking of it, because we are talking from a different platform. If I'm talking from where I'm coming from, and I think Aliyu will agree with me, I think society, where you're coming from, plays a very big role in who you become or how you act, especially when it comes to a man. Because if you come from where I'm coming from, it is like power for a man to control his wife, or to be powerful, to be the man of the house. But it is a system that I myself, I'd say, I grew in a community where I would hear women screaming every single night, though I was not in an abusive family. But in every single night, I will hear a man beating a woman because his food is not hot, or because he's just a man. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question, because this is, for me as a woman, we have this, when you're growing up as a girl, and I don't know how is it in America, maybe it's a little bit different, but there's this talk that women, you're being given, like you're a wife, and you are the woman of the house, and you have to tolerate, and you have to be. So what kind of talks should men have with their sons, or within the family, so that we do not have this continuation of abuse? Because for us as women, and it's sad to say this, there's a part of us that we are brought up to be submissive to our husbands, and it's a kind of, I need to respect because he's a man, and I need. So this is a talk that we have as women, and this is how we are raised. And when you come up growing up, knowing I come in a family of as a woman, I need to be the umbrella, and I need to be there for my man, and I need to be there. So do these talks do men or fathers, what kind of talk should they have? I know sometimes you are an abuser, or you've been an abuser, but should it be like a way that maybe fathers or community or people talk to boys in a way that can create a different community, or different mentality? Because it is like Catherine is saying, it's an of stereotypes. Like, it's a way that we men are being raised. And I'm not saying, I'm not being biased, but I just want to understand, how do you as fathers, so because I know most of you are fathers, how do you feel like is a better way to create that change, to bring your son to become not a stereotype, not to be that I'm a man of the house by name, but not with action?
Well, Fatima, I'll go ahead and say something on this. Like I said before, it's by leading by example. And you can't begin to lead by example until you lead by truth. And then I think you dig a little bit deeper. You think about, how can I be real with myself? What am I projecting? What am I doing? What do I stand for? What do I want? So until we go to those levels with ourselves and see, okay, how do I want my son to be raised? How do I want my family to be? How do I even treat a wife? What does that mean to me? And I'm going to speak from my experience. I can sit here and say, I think I should work hard. I think I should shower my wife with gifts. I think I should do all the things that, cars, dinners, flowers, just all types of things that I can think that I should provide a wife, right? Pay the bills, work hard, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if I didn't sit down and even communicate and see how that wife would want to be treated, then I'm wrong from the get-go, right? Because everything that I think I'm doing, then it's just all wrong. That goes back to raising your sons and setting that example. Because even though I may say all those things, someone else might do something totally different or agree to something totally different. But if they feel what they're doing as far as, you know, abusing their wife verbally, physically, whatever it is, and they're projecting that and showing their son that, right? Then it's like a cycle, right? It's going to keep going. I think that we have to once be real with ourselves, see where we want to go with that. We have to demonstrate to our sons and step up and really be fathers. There's a lack, and I'm going to speak in from maybe the society from which I came. There's men. There are men all over the place. They're everywhere. They want the women and all that great stuff, right? But how many men are stepping up and being men, even if you're not a father to that boy, being a man to that boy and letting that boy know, look, this is how we're supposed to do it. This is how we're going to do it. Furthermore, not running our mouth, showing these men, young men, how to be men. So there's a lack of men stepping up to show and demonstrate, actively demonstrate. This talk is cheap. And I just believe that we're in a place now where we just really have to step up to the plate and be a father to the fatherless. And we have to educate ourselves. We have to learn how to become better. I'm learning how to become better every day because I've got things all mixed up and wrong, right? So if we don't acknowledge that we don't know everything and actively pursue to get better, until that happens on an individual level and we're able to be honest with ourselves, that's when true change will take place, in my opinion.
Oh man, that's good, man. That is good. I think you took the word right out of my mouth, and I think that we all were saying the same thing. Fatima, you said, what's the talk that we have with our children? I don't think it's talk. I think that, like Steven said, it's demonstration. It's demonstration. Because at the end of the day, remember, if this is a learned behavior, and this is something that we learned from the ones that was raising us, because we got it from somewhere. Maybe they wanted to have the conversation and talk with us, but they didn't. They didn't. Or they may have talked and they may have said that's no good, but they may have demonstrated putting their hands on the mother or the woman. So it's not about the talk, it's about the demonstration. Another thing too is that, it's not about you. At some point in time, it's not about you, and you don't need to prove your masculinity by putting your hands on a woman, or you don't have to prove your masculinity or I'm a man by being controlling or putting your hand, like I said, putting your hands on a woman. At some point in time, it's about the people that you love. And going back to the demonstration, I'll just share for an example, like this past Father's Day, my daughter, she wanted to take me out to go for breakfast, but I just wanted to chill for Father's Day. I just wanted to lay up in the bed. But you know what I realized afterwards? When I finished with that, I said to my wife, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have took that experience away from her. Because even though I may not have wanted to do that, maybe that's something that she wanted to do. So it doesn't become about you. Sometimes it becomes about the experience, about the other person. And that's why I go back to saying about the masculinity. It's not, you're not proving yourself a man by being controlling or being dominant over the female. There's something totally different about being submissive and all of these things. And I know that some of this stuff is even in the Bible, but let's not get it twisted. Like being submissive and being dominant and putting your hands and on because we think that they're inferior, or we think that's something totally different. And that's something that's within you, that you may need to seek help, or you may need to reverse that, like Ali said, that pattern or that habit or things like that. So I think that those were the points that I definitely wanted to home in on. Don't take away that experience. Don't take away that experience from that wife of being on this planet and not being abusive. Like, don't take away the experience of her enjoying her life through her 20s and her 30s, but her being battered through her 20s and her 30s. Let's take a look at things like that. I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Very good points, gentlemen. Appreciate you for that. Definitely.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Stephen as well. Ali, oh yeah, Fatima, thank you for the platform.
very good conversation. In my opinion, I think the first education is in the home. Wherever your home is, where you're born, the environment you're in, what you see, what you witness, right? Not necessarily what someone says to you, but like you gentlemen said, the action steps that's taken in front of you. So I have a daughter, so I got a lot of nephews. So and I work with a lot of young men. So just at a young age, just showing them, right, when they're roughhousing with their cousins or with young ladies, listen, don't do that. They tripping them, they pushing them. Listen, don't do that. You protect these young ladies. This is your family. This is your friend. This is our community. Protect these young ladies, which will be women. Protect them. Don't ever put your hands on them. So I think just making that clear at a very young age, and then allowing them to see that's how you operate as well, you know. And eventually, you know, they'll understand like, but it's a repeat, right? You got to repeatedly get on them about it, right? You got to repeatedly say it to them. Not one is repetition, right? Repetition. That's what I'm trying to get at. Repetition. So repeatedly instilling abuse is not okay into their mind, and just, you know, being proactive in their lives, being the example, like you gentlemen said, right? And I think a lot of times abuse is mainly most times the abuse is mainly about the abuser, by them not being able good for those that come behind us, because leaving a legacy is not about us. It's about those that come behind us, right? The work that we putting in now, we might not even see the results that, you know, we expect to see, but years later, the results are going to come in. So by being that example now, we're setting the tone for the generations to come, right? So being that example, right? Being that stand-up guy, not putting your hands on, you know, not abuse. Abuse is not the way, right? And leading by example, I think is really, really key in setting the tone for our communities.
That's dope, man. Very profound what you said, brother. You're prolific. You know what I mean? I love it. You know?
Hey, I'm loving this platform so much right now, and it's really powerful. The amazing messages that we're sharing here, and I believe anyone who is listening out there will definitely learn from this. As Stephen Williams said, it is taking responsibility. You know, taking responsibility as a father, you know, as a brother to someone, you know, it's very, very important looking at yourself, knowing that, hey, whatever is happening in my life, I am responsible for this. And then being a father recently of a young boy of 1 month old, and I feel grateful. And whatever I'm doing, my actions, you know, I'm looking up to this kid, like, what am I doing? Because I understand now, because that's where self-development also comes in. As men, we need to understand and then trying to learn things and then trying to develop ourselves, you know, self-development, so you can be conscious aware of certain things. So whatever I'm doing right now around this kid, I'm very careful, because I know that's where the programming starts from a young age. Even they're in the womb of their mother, growing up from age 1 to 7. The church tells you that give me your child from age 1 to 7, and I will turn them to be the way I want them to be. This is the programming. So what are you telling this kid at that age? What are you doing around them? The action, and then actions speak louder than words. They see things. If you are born in an abusive family, that behavioral pattern continues. You keep also having a partner and a wife or whatever, and then you keep doing the same thing, because they start from maybe your dad. This is how they used to, you know, abuse your mom, or your mom used to abuse your dad. So this is very, very important to be a role model and take responsibilities as men. As Stephen said, I'll go back there again, whereby men have to be men, because sometimes you hear women saying we lack men in the society. They don't mean that there is not enough men. There is a bunch of men out there, but we lack real men. Come on, man.
There's a lot of males,
Oh,
but
man.
no men.
Come on,
There's a lot
man.
of males, but no men.
Come on, boy. We like
I hear
real
you. I
men.
hear you, Ali. I see where you're going with that.
Yeah,
I see
man. We have to step up to the table and then try to be real men. And then everything starts from the home. You know, if one individual change, it can change a family. And then that family change, it can change the community. If the community change, it can change the whole nation and change the whole world to the next level. So we can live in a peace and tranquility and, you know, beautiful world. God created everything for us being so beautiful, you know, the mountains, the waterfalls, everything is beautiful. And then in the Quran, where, you know, my religion, it says anything bad came from us and anything good came from God. So why are we been doing bad things? Why are we doing bad things? We have to take responsibility and think again to ourselves, understanding that, hey, we own this world. We should be the captain of our own ship and the master of our own soul. Take responsibility, man.
Ali,
Yes.
you hit it. But see, now we got to be real. You got us on here, so we're gonna tell the truth, okay? Now I might make some people angry, but check this out. We got to get out in the world and be the change, right? Community starts with us, right? And being men and get out here and actively doing it. So if there's a lot of men out here who aren't really men, they're males, let's be the men that go out and tell them, teach the males and show the males how you do this, son. So it's like, we got to step up, but then we get busy and we've got this going on and we've got that. Well, it's not my responsibility. And, you know, we've got all this. Well, I'm good at my house. We have to get over all of those things, right? Before the change can actually take place, because we got to get off our bum bums, which my 5-year-old daughter calls it. But we got to get off of those and we have to get out here in the world and actively play our roles. And it sounds good, but until we get out here and take action, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's very powerful.
And okay, Fatima, am I going to the second question or you've already
Yeah.
asked that second question?
Let me check.
Because you already asked 2 questions.
Yeah, so I think you can go to I think that I skipped. So you can ask the fourth one.
Okay, because the
Elaborate.
second one was basically, how do we break the common
Yeah.
belief that men have from society?
Yeah.
Who can?
Oh, that's the question.
So the,
Yes.
Okay, say it again.
How can we break that common belief that men have from society? Like, example, men have this common belief that, as Fatima said earlier, that we the men, you know, we have to, but as Stephen said, Stefan said earlier that, you know, are you going to be dominant or abusive or whatever? You know, you have to like control, you have to understand that if we said men are dominant in society, you cannot be, okay, like dominant being abusive to someone or whatever. You have to have it in a different, what these are beliefs that we have, and then men have to always be on the top, men have to take over, men have to be that, men have to be that. So how do we break that belief in society about men?
Well, start off by asking, what is a man? What is a man?
yes.
Other than having a private part that distinguishes you from a female, what is a man? It's not the fact that your hair is long or short. What is a man? It's not the fact that your voice is deep or so. What is a man? And I think that before we can even answer that question, one has to sit and think, what is a man? What does a man do? What is our role? If we go back to the Bible, like what is the purpose of a man? What's your purpose? What is that? How many people can truly sit down and even think about that question and be real about it? Am I being a man? Am I a man? Okay, I brought this child in the world, but am I a man? Because you see, I know I got to go to work, and but then I just want to sit on the couch and play video games and not take care of my responsibilities. Am I being a man? Am I demonstrating love? And I think you have to go back to some principles. None of us, I'm not perfect by any daggone stretch of the imagination. But one thing I have learned is what is love, right? Love is kind, love is paid. Love is being a man, love and all that, that's what a man is built of, compassion. It's that demonstrating. Man, it's the working 16, 17 hours a day, bringing that single piece of bread home to your family because they're dependent on you. That's not just the provision part, the providing part. That's the love, that's the grit that it takes from you to even accomplish such great accomplishment. That's demonstration. That's showing up at that ball game. That's making those sacrifices. That's loving your child. It's so much. What is a man? How do you comfort? How do you become? Some of us didn't have those examples like right in front of us every day of that type of that manhood, that coming that grab you around the shoulder, that man, look, this is the way. So what is a man? So we have to begin to ask ourselves, what is it? What is a man? And then once we find out what a man is, what type of man do I want to be? Do I want to be the type of man that's demanding or domineering? Or do I want to be the type of man that wants to be a power couple with my wife? Because I want my wife to be just as great as I am. Because and then I want my kids to see that. And I want my kids to be empowered. So what type of man do I want to be? But see, I can't even answer that question because I don't even know what a man is. I don't know what a man's supposed to do. I don't know, y'all.
Yo, this platform is hot in here. So fired up. Thank you, Stephen.
Steven, that was dope. That was dope. That was good, bro.
Amazing,
Yeah,
powerful.
I don't really have a lot to add on to that. I think you hit it right on the nose. What is a man? You do have to ask yourself that question to probably define what do you feel like a man is, or what do you feel like being a man is in terms of your life. I don't think that there's a cookie cutter answer to what a man really is. You know, I think each and every individual has their own probably like isolated distinction or definition to what a man is going to be. But I do think that there's probably some core things like protection and, like you said, love, and just being a provider, and also try to figure out who is trying to define what a man really is in today's society. Is society trying to define what a man is? Yeah, I know this platform is about domestic abuse, and that can go both ways. But is a woman trying to define what a man is? Like because we've been hitting a lot of road bumps there with women calling men out, saying you're not a man, you are a man, and all these things like that. So it's really you probably taking a look at within yourself what a man is and trying to define that. But that's pretty much what I have to add to that. I really don't have that much.
Fire. Stevie was sick. Same way, man. Definitely. Thank you guys for that, man. That was fire. I don't even know what to say after that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Right.
that's a tough one coming behind Steven on that one.
Fact.
That was good.
Fact. Yeah, definitely. I think every one of us has a different perspective on what a man is. Maybe some of the same qualities, but each of us has our own idea of what a man is, right? And I think growing up as a teenager, I thought I was a man because I was on the streets running around, acting like a man, but I was a boy. I was operating as a boy. Even though I was around older people and around men, they were boys as well. Because their idea of manhood wasn't conducive to what real men do. You know what I mean? They were still acting in boyish ways, acting out of anger, in their emotions, in their feelings, living for the moment. So once I put away those boyish things, I started thinking in terms of what Stephen was saying, what does it take to be an actual man? Then I started to get around men and adopt those same traits that I seen as, that were men. So yeah, I think that's a huge part of it, getting around men. Your environment is everything, you know what I'm saying? So what you see, what you're attracted to, and also when you get in a relationship, I think part of being a man is sacrificing and understanding what your significant other wants and needs, right? Stop being selfish, put away selfish ways, and put yourself of course, we all have our needs and wants, but putting yourself, you know, after, right? It's okay to cater to someone else, to be there for someone in ways that people weren't there for you, but knowing that and being that for someone else. I think it's a lot we can go into about on this one subject, but I think you guys summed it up. Yeah, you guys summed it up. So yeah. So thank you. Yeah, I think that's really what all I got.
Let me ask one question. I want to throw a monkey wrench in here. What if you're doing everything you can in being a man from the best that you know, on whatever level that is, and a woman, because we're talking about a lot, you know, but a woman comes in and only wants to focus on what you're not, what you ain't. You ain't this. So how does a man or boy pick themselves up, re-enter this thing we're calling society, and live out an impactful, purposeful life, when in the back of their mind, they could be thinking, am I a man, right? Even if we wanted to turn it onto like abusive side, I don't know, right? And say the man beats the woman, the man is wrong, right? I don't want to beat women, but I'm just saying. But I'm just saying how if the woman did come back and say, well, you ain't no man, the triggers, right? And that's not just physical abuse, right? It's verbal abuse and it's action abuse, right? It's like, well, you ain't good at this. And it has nothing to do with what's hitting, but telling a man what he ain't good at, but never telling him what he is good at. So how does he deal with that in the back of his mind at the end of the day? Like that's something, you know, personal, like I've heard, you know, well, you ain't good at this, or you are bad at that. You know, so I think, and everyone can't just come back from that, right? Everyone's not gonna look at themselves and revamp and try to get better. So I think that communication is a major part, and I'm gonna leave it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, how I can see something about it. I, you know, hear always this belief about women that if you done something good for them, they will put it in a bad bag, which a bag that have a hole underneath. Or if you done a bad thing for them, they will put it in a good bag whereby there's no hole. So it's keeping it together. So the good things that you've done for them, it's all going to waste, going in vain. So immediately, like you done something bad and then they just get enough of it, they will just take out all those bad things that they've been packing for you and then bring it to the surface, but forgetting that you've been doing good things. And then as Stephen asks, you know, you have good things in you that you think that this is what it takes to be a man. But another woman comes in with their different agenda that this is what they need in a man. So it's just like adjusting yourself, I think. And then you cannot be everything. You cannot do everything. You just have to do the fundamental basic things that are very, very important as a man, you know, as a good provider, as a good father, a good husband, you know, and also be there for them emotionally, and then be there a role model, and then take responsibility of certain things. I think we have so many responsibility in society as men. So also, if we have a good woman around us, that will be really supportive as well. So sometimes women can be really abusive as well, verbally, you know, physically as well. But at the end of the day, to be a man, you know, that you think, you know, society, it's not about what society is accepting. It's about what you think, at least that God, you just within that like within the circle of being the right person for your family, not being what society think of you or what your woman think you should be. You should think of the most important basic things of life, how you should be to your woman, to your kids, and then also society. This is what I wanted to add on, Stephen.
Yeah, God, and to your God. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? At the end of the day, sometimes, you know, I'm a Christian, so I believe that when I have a question or if I don't know something, that, you know, you turn to the Bible, and the Bible may instruct, hey, listen, to be a man, follow this, like, you know what I'm saying, maybe according to my scripture, or you know what I'm saying. So I definitely think that for me to turn to the Bible when I have questions like that, because society, even though we turn to society, society may not always have the correct answer for us. You know, society may not always have the correct answer. So I agree with all of you guys, and I definitely think, you know, if you're doing right by your religion or your God, and by that, then, you know, you can always seek that as a source. I mean, that's what I do in my life.
Okay, do you have anything
But
to
yeah,
answer?
I gotta speak up and say.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Stephen. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna add some more confusion. That's all.
Okay, do you have anything
But
to say on what Stephen William asked?
Yeah, actually, it's 12 o'clock. I was typing in the chat. So after this, go. But this conversation is amazing. I appreciate all of you, definitely. But I think you got to take a look at like why you got in that situation in the first place, right? And who you in the situation with. A lot of times, as men, you know, we gonna go off site, right? We see something we want, we like, okay, right? And it's lust. We operate off emotions, right? That's emotion, lust, right? So I think having the emotional intelligence, enough emotional intelligence to say, you know what, you look good, but you're not good for me. So I'm gonna pass on this opportunity instead of, you know, wanting to get that what we want. So I think that has a lot to do with a lot of us as men, especially in our society, in our neighborhoods. We get in the situation, have babies, and become baby fathers. And then we dealing with going back and forth and dealing with the drama that comes with that. And oftentimes get overwhelmed and either leave the situation, or some men become abusers, or it's a bunch of negative outcomes to these decisions that we make based off of lust. So I think you have to have a firm understanding of who you are, what you want, where you're going in life, and get a partner that matches you and stop being lustful. You know? So
Keith, I agree with that. I think emotions, I think that when we go back to what being a man is, I think that control and that power that we try to inflict on a woman, or maybe a dominant woman try to inflict on a man, take that control and that power and try to control yourself. You know, it's much harder to control yourself and do what it is that you want to do for yourself. But it's much easier to try to inflict that control over somebody else, or inflict that power over somebody else. So it may or may not be the definition of what a man or what a woman is, but I think to be a good individual, control yourself, control your emotions, control your anger, control all of these things. And I think that when you start to begin to master those things, then everything in line, everything else may start to form, you know, come in line. But control yourself.
Fire, let's go. That's what I'm talking about, man. I love it.
Now, Fatima, we'll hand it over to you then.
Thank you. So I like the question that Stephen asked. And I think when we talk about men and women, I think in all situations, we have men who are narcissistic and women who are narcissistic. And women kind of use emotional abuse, and it affects a man. So for us women, and this is what I'm going to say again, as women, we have a way of making outlet. I can talk to my friend and say, you know, my husband said I'm not this and I'm not that and I'm not this. And kind of I can find an outlet to release, even though it doesn't help as much, because if that thing keeps on going at home, I'm still going to have it. But I think in terms of men, is like you're being raised in a way where you do not allow yourself to deal with your emotions. I am a man, and I think this is something that is raised in society. I come from Africa, and it is a shame for a man to cry. It is a shame for a man to say he's weak in something in front of a girl. So the society builds a man to feel that he's superhero and he needs to be a superhero. And when such comments are made, I think it breaks your ego, and kind of men react differently. I think if men would just understand the fact that you're a human being, and you're a person of your own, and your emotions you are allowed to let out your emotions. And even if somebody doesn't believe you are as strong as your ego tells you, you have to find that part of you to accept that you're a human, but you're not always supposed to be this strong macho man who has to prove to people you're powerful or strong. I think in that context, we allow our emotions to more like lead us to do things that we don't want. So when Stephen say a woman tells you you're not a man enough, I think your actions as a man allows you to know what kind of a man you are. As you said about decision making, if I abuse a woman, I know that I'm doing something wrong as a man. So that is not it's something that you know that I'm doing is something wrong. I'm making a decision to make it right is making a change. It's the same way when somebody says I'm not a man enough, does that mean I'm not a man enough because of her opinion or because of what I see of myself? I think it's more coming of how do I allow my emotion to define who I am? And it's a process. So it's a challenging, because most women like using this word, oh, you're not a man enough. It's a kind of demeaning a man, kind of. But sometimes your actions as a man brings this words to the table. So you as a man, and I think I'm talking in the part of where I've seen a lot of parents making boys feel like they're so special. They're kind of, they can do whatever they want. So I'm going to give an example. When I grew up and I had this conversation with my father, my auntie used to say, a girl cannot go out, or you cannot do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things because you're going to get pregnant. And then I asked my auntie, so my cousins are all boys and they're going out and do whatever they want, but they become alcoholic. So what's the difference between me becoming pregnant and he becoming an alcoholic? Because in the end of the day, I will ruin my life and he's ruining his life becoming alcoholic. And then we don't have men who are responsible in society. So I think the definition of how we are raised as women and men, and the definition we're given to define us as who we are, is what affects us more than what we are ourselves.
Absolutely, Fatima. That's very, very powerful.
Yeah, that was a good point.
Point.
Yeah. And Fatima, I agree with you, especially when you talk about the ego. And from my point of view, I think that the ego is not your friend. The ego wants you to stick. You got to realize the ego wants you to stick with the identity in which you already are. So if you're one way, if I want to lose weight or something like that, my ego is going to be the one that comes up with all the excuses when it comes time for me to go to the gym. So the ego is definitely not your friend, and I think you have to go against your ego. You have to go against your current identity in order to make any type of effective change on what it is that you're trying to change.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, Stefan. Thank you very much for that. And then this is really a great platform that I really love. And also we should be sharing more of these things, because this is what is affecting us and affecting society as a whole. So the last question I will let Fatima ask that question, the question number 4, and then so we can wrap it up as well.
I think we've talked about so much about society, and we've explained so much how society affects us in so many ways. So I think if I ask this question, we're just going to be
repetition.
So I'm just going to read some of the comments that we have here. Lydia asked, why do men most of the time don't want to support women when they talk about abuse?
They don't want to support them?
Yeah, her question is, I think I'm going to take this in the context of where she's coming from. So she's coming from Africa. I think Leo needs to answer this question. So she says, why do men not support women when they talk about abuse? I think why I'll say Leo to answer this question is because in Africa, abuse is something that is dominating according to culturally. Men kind of feel it's okay to abuse your wife. So Leo, if you can answer Lydia this question.
Yes, thank you very much, Lydia, for asking that question. And it's very common, I mean, in Africa, for men to abuse women. And I remember when I was younger, my dad even beat my mom in front of me. I was very young, and I will never forget this. But I will never go around and doing that to any woman in my life. I've been grown up in this habit. It just happened once, to be honest. But I know also other men does this. And then a woman can cook something nice for you as a man in Africa. And then when the food is ready, whatever they go through there, especially in Africa, it's like, cooking under the rain, and then the firewood cannot even light. There's not enough heat to cook the food. And they do all their effort. And at the end of the day, bring the food on the table. So all that man will say to you is, oh, the food is not nice, or there's too much salt in it, or stuff like that. And it's a lot of this happening there. And then to beat their woman on, because of that circumstance, that what happened there, it's so easy for them. And then nobody will say anything about it. And this is wrong. This is even wrong. Even to give them fist money to go to the market and then buy stuff to come and cook. Some men don't do that in Africa. So if you want to talk about abusive, about, with men in Africa, they're trying to avoid this topic. And it's very, very important. It's communication, which means that you have to communicate with your wife, but there's a communication barrier between men and women in Africa, if I can understand. But I think I'm an African man, but I'm a different person as I become conscious aware of a lot of things. I've been through a lot in my life, my story, but I trying to change myself and then see that this is not okay. I have to be, doing something that is right, which is the best for me and for the society, and then whosoever I'm going to be with. And also what I've been through, that doesn't have to make me resentment, or I've seen my, dad abuse my mom in front of me. I doesn't have to go around abusing any other woman out there. So this is a thing that men have to take responsibility in Africa, and then listen to their women. Don't be trying to be dominant or whatever. Just make sure that when your woman come up with a topic of talking about abusive relationship, sit down and identify what is the problem, and then let them talk to you, and then, communicate back to them so you can find the best possible solution to that problem. Because at the end of the day, it will continue, and then the kids who are going to be born in that type of abusive relationship, and this is going to affect them as well in the future. So I'm telling any man out there in Africa, wherever you are, we should try to change our belief, our mentality, how we think, and then trying to be a better version of ourselves.
You know what? I just want to add on to that. I may not be from Africa, but you know what it is? I think it's why they probably want to avoid it, because you have to be willing to relinquish that power and relinquish that control. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, no man wants to relinquish power or wants to relinquish control if you have it and you freely have it. See, for something to be allowed or for something to be okay is one thing, and for something to be right is a totally different thing. So if we're dealing with morals and that's not right, then it's one thing to say, okay, let's not do that because that's not right. But if they're allowed in that society to do that, and it's okay to do that, then they're going to continue to go ahead and do that. And I think that they have to be willing to want to relinquish that power. I don't necessarily, because you're actually giving something up. If Ali, I agree with you. It comes down to communication. If your food is not, from what it sounds like you're saying, if your food is not cooked or it's not warm enough, like you said, Fatima, to go ahead and hit your spouse, you can communicate that to them. You can say, hey, listen, this is not warm enough. But you have to remember, to be angry and to be abusive is also a form of communication. It is also a form of communication. It is wrong communication. It's when you start to get angry and start to get physical because you don't know how to really sit down and communicate and talk with someone. Like Stephen said earlier, to have that conversation. But I think that as a man, someone who has been in a position of power, just within my profession, you have to be willing to want to relinquish that power and relinquish that control. You have to be willing to want to do that. And if you're in a society where that's okay, then it's going to be hard pressed to do that.
All right.
So true.
Stephen William, you have anything to add on that?
My experience is so crazy. And I'm just speaking from experience standpoint because, I'm not an abusive man in physicality. I'm going to be you know what, let me merge these two together real quick. So you have two different types of societies, right? You have the US, right, where I am, speaking of war, and then you have Africa, right? Two totally different continents. So I actually happen to be married to a woman who's from Ethiopia. And so in having this conversation and hearing other things, knowing how my upbringing was and what I've seen, there's a difference. There's a cultural difference. Over here, I remember when I was a kid, I'll say this, I remember when I was a kid and I had a fight with the girl. I believe I might've been in the 8th grade or the 7th grade. My mother took me outside, made me apologize and wore me out before I got into the front door, right? I never hit a girl from since that point. It was really embarrassed. My mother beat my butt back to the house. Now, I'll say this, I grew up seeing like my mom single and not having the things that I think that, you know, maybe we should have had. Like she should have had to use coins to pay for a loaf of bread because she just didn't have the money. So I grew up thinking provider, right? I grew up thinking empower a woman, right? Because I seen my mother hustle and get out here and work. So I think you become this power couple and you support your woman in all her efforts, her dreams, her visions. Now I'm sitting here listening to you all talk, right? And I see this other side. There is a side in a culture where that's not fostered. That's not encouraged, right? Because the man wants to retain that power. But and if I let my woman get too much power, then maybe I become powerless because she's great. It's a mindset, it's a mentality. And I believe that cultural differences may have a lot to do with it, but then we have to own it and take accountability down to the individual level. Look, everyone deserves to be great. Everyone deserves to live out their dreams. Everyone deserves a chance to just be who they want to be in life, whatever that is. And that's okay. But if that person is not for you, what they want to be, if it's nothing, if they want to sit on the couch all day, if they want to make bad food that's not warm enough, if they want to go to the best restaurants and have the finest food, if that's not what you want, be man enough at the end of the day to understand that and make provisions or situations where they can live the life that they want to live and you can live the life that you want to live, even if that means that life that both of you want to live is not together. And I'm gonna be so transparent, that's something real time that I'm speaking from a true place of experience. And it takes a lot of growth. It takes a lot of being real. It takes a lot of just understanding a situation and saying, hey, I might have been wrong doing something. But see, this is what I want. You don't have to beat anyone to get that point across. You don't have to, make someone suffer in silence because you want to get that point across. Abuse really isn't necessary. But that we may all do it. I may partake in it in some form or fashion that I'm just not aware of. Whether that's silent abuse, verbal abuse, I don't know. But I just want to end it there and just say, look, everyone has the right to do what they want to be and say what they want to say. And if that person isn't for you or not living up to your expectation, make preparations that don't leave them hurt or stranded and allow them to live the life that they want to live. And I'm gonna end it there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I was real sincere. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. So Catherine says, break the generation curse. So I think we've discussed so much and time is gone. I think we've almost reached 1 hour and so much still we can talk, I think, for hours in this topic. But I'm so grateful that you came here, and I think this is a powerful way of empowering, and it's a powerful way of making people understand that there is more to us than what society tells us. We can't be better than what we want to be. And when we're talking about cultural differences, and I think this is the one thing that I've learned, like, yes, your culture can be defining some things, but then you have a power to become who you want to become and change. And when we listen to people like the people who are having this conversation today, I think all of them have experience in one way or another. And whatever they've shared with us today, it shows you like you have the power to make decisions. You have the power to make a decision of not being an abuser and be just a good man. So my final question is, you've all asked like, who is a man, or how do you know a good man? Then I've had this question because I also ask women, because there's this word that a powerful woman. So for me, I'm going to ask, who's a powerful man? For me, I grew up knowing that my dad was very powerful because he was a man who allowed me to see myself not just as a girl, but as a human being who can do whatever she wants. And he allowed me to believe in my dreams. So for me, my father was a very powerful man because he would make me feel strong, even at the moments where I felt like life was not working for us. And it's still the most powerful thing that I grew up knowing, that there's a man who can make you feel special no matter what happens in life. So everybody, when people talk about powerful men, I always say a powerful man for me is a man who understands people in different dynamics and can actually make you feel special in different ways. So who is a powerful man according to you?
For me, I'll definitely have to say, like you, my father. You know, growing up with my father, I grew up he was a military soldier. So growing up in the household was very, very strict, very, very dominant. And I might not have had the upbringing, and it may not have been as comfortable as, others. But one thing I do realize is that, again, my father, the way that he was raised was the way that he raised me. And as strict as it may have been, he still made the decision to not disappear or go away or not be there. So it may not necessarily been as comfortable or to my liking, but at the end of the day, he still stuck around. And he didn't he didn't just pick up and just like, abandon his household. So I definitely would say my father for me.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and speak up, and you asked me that question, and wow, you left me stuck, because a powerful man that I didn't have, it would be Jay-Z. As I sit now and I reflect, I had a uncle that I see maybe, taking care of his, family to a certain extent. I had uncles that were around me that, my uncles that kind of empowered me and made, me into this man figure, right? Made sure that I was, tough and could handle things. Other than that, that's all I can attest to as far as that male figure growing up. Yeah, that's it. So I had to kind of learn a lot by movies. I learned a lot from the Goodfellas, A Bronx Tale. I'm just gonna be real with y'all, man. Like, I learned a lot from movies, and it was like the Goodfellas. You take care of your family, and I seen that on TV. Y'all, this gets real, because when you start talking about modern day and certain societies, you got to face the fact. Do I want to be like that man? And I'm not knocking anybody. Please don't take this the wrong way. But do I want to be like the man that I see walk into work to stand at the cash register for 10 hours a day? Do I want that? Heck no, I don't want that. I don't want to ride my bike to work in the rain. I don't, as a grown man. So when I'm growing up and I'm looking at all this stuff, or if I look at someone and they're not literally living the life that I think I want to live, where do I get that from? Where do I get that sense of being a man from? Like I said, I did have an uncle who you know, my uncles, a couple of them, they instilled some good things in me, right? But I think at the end of the day, man, that's such a huge question. And I literally don't have much to come back on and saying who was that powerful figure, because I had so many things that I looked at, and my uncles, they really stepped up. I have my dad. My dad was there, but once again, when if you grow up and you have some type of feeling, you feel some type of way because maybe he's not present in your life, and I'm gonna say present. I'm not gonna say living in your household. I'm gonna say present. And you grow up and you develop feelings, and he could be batting 1,000 in his world, but in your eyes, you don't really respect that because you're lacking, right? So that can also lead back to your original question of what is a man? So you can really have a whole society of lost individuals, and it takes time and work to actually find that, what that is for that individual. So I'll leave it there. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Stephen Williams. Word, that was powerful answer. And then for my opinion, what I want to say about who is a powerful man, you know, as my father, I can see him as a powerful man, and he's been a role model, despite, you know, he did some mistakes, but he's a perfect guy. And every human being, I see them as perfect, but it's what they do that is not perfect. But he's been a role model. He's been, you know, he educated us, and then he did all he can do. He was married to two wives. My mom was his second wife. You know, we live in a big house. You know, he was the provider and everything. And I grew up in this, you know, society and community whereby you have to just fight for yourself, you know, and then be the man that you want to be in life. And then a lot of movies also really awaken me up. You know, I watched this movie with Will Smith. I think I forgot the title of the movie. It was with his son, but he was a great man as well. And that's a very good role model as who is a powerful, you know, man, because he was there for his son no matter what happened. You know, they were going through some difficulties, some challenges, but he saw his son that, look, everything's going to be okay one day. Everything's going to be okay. And they work through difficulties, hard that they have to sleep in train stations and do a lot of things. But he trying to tell his son some stories to distract him from the situation that was happening. They have to sleep in toilets, you know, and they evict them out of the house. So that's a powerful man right there. You know what I mean? Trying to be a role model despite whatever happened. Just, you know, cover up. You know, some things you have to cover up, and then just don't show the real picture, and then just move on, and then trying to be the best you can be the best version of yourself. It's like all come down to self-development, trying to study about yourself as a man to be a better version of yourself. Anyway, I didn't have much time right now. We're supposed to go out somewhere, and maybe I'll just hand over everything to Fatima. And thank you very much, Stephen William. I'm so happy to be in this platform, and it's been very powerful knowledge that we share here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you.
I think Keith didn't answer the question. If he's still around.
Yeah, I think he had to go. Keith had to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. It has been a very powerful conversation, and for me, this is change. If you want to create change, people share and really empower and share insights that are very powerful, and allow us to really rethink of what we're doing in life. This is how we create change. So I want to thank you guys so much for being here. And for the young people who are listening, just imagine the people on this platform, they've been in their own journey, their own challenges, and they've shared so many things that have happened in their life. It's time for you to rethink. And they're here. Why I ask people to come here is that I think most of them are here to help and empower people. And if you're a young man who's confused and you want find your way, or you feel like you are in this society confusion, I think they're all here, and they are all in social media, and you can reach to any one of them, and they can help you as much as they can. I want to thank you so much, guys, for being here today. It's been an honor. I know you all are busy, but you joined us today, and thank you for this amazing conversation.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Fatima. Thank you. And thank you. And no, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Look, I want to end with a little quote. And this is a quote from a rapper. Like, y'all know look, one of my favorite rappers is Young Jeezy. Everybody knows. He says one thing in one of his songs. He says, men do what they want, boys do what they can. And there's no secret because I'm a grown man, right? I want everybody to just hold that. Every man hold that. Men do what they want, boys do what they can. So if you're a man, do what you want, do the right thing. And I'm gonna leave it there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. That's really powerful. So I think we are wrapping up, unless someone has anything else to add. We're gonna wrap up, and I want to thank you so much. I want to thank Catherine and Lydia for the amazing comments. I think they will see them later, and the questions that you asked, and they've been answered. And I want to thank you again so much. And I think we're gonna have more of this conversation and empower men as much as we're empowering women. Thank you so much.
Yes, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.